So once you have all your shots brought in on your computer, on the hard drive, the next step is syncing. Before you stitch or before you do anything, you want to sync. So there's 3 ways to do this. The first of the 3 is using a program called Pluralize and or Premiere to solve for specific camera frame offsets and then manually inputting those with the keyboard in AutoPano Video Pro. I found that to be the most accurate in my experience. The second is syncing in AutoPano Video Pro using the motion analysis tool, and that is where it will analyze that rapid spinning you do when you shoot. And then the third is using the audio analysis inside of AutoPano Video Pro as well. And that will take any kind of clapping or loud noises like that and sync it together inside of AutoPano Video. I've found that Pluralize is the best solution simply due to the fact that that program has been around a while. Its only purpose is to sync audio flawlessly. And when you can sync audio that close and that flawlessly, you get a really, really good stitch in the end. And you can of course tweak these later on if it just doesn't look right. Try them all, whichever one looks best. But we'll go ahead and start with Pluralize, and I'll show you how to do that right now. All you have to do is drag each one of your cameras in, so it makes a new camera every time instead of trying to put it all on one timeline. Because if I don't do that, if I just select them all like that and drop them all in, it'll parse them all out on one timeline, which is fine, I guess, in some situations, because it's assuming that it's all from one camera, but it is not. So we have to drag in one at a time. And then all you have to do once it's done analyzing, it says 6 clips ready to synchronize. You just click the synchronize button and there you go. And it, in an instant, will synchronize everything you need right there in front of you. So then all you have to do from here is click export timeline, and it's going to export an XML, so a very small file. Make sure you've chosen Premiere Pro as your format, and you can leave all those, that's fine. There are no unsynchronized clips, so this won't really matter, but we'll leave them checked regardless. So then it makes an XML file here that you can then drag in like that, or you can of course just hit export and make sure you're saving it in the spot you want in the first place. Boom, like that. So once we have everything synced, we want to bring this into Premiere. So I'm going to open up Premiere, and in Premiere I just usually create like a sync project. We'll just do shot 5 sync for now, but you can make one project for a whole series of clips if you'd like. It doesn't really matter that way. We'll just leave it like that. Hit OK. And then all you have to do, you don't need to worry about dragging the MP4s. All you got to do is drag in that XML file, and Premiere will go to work and read the file and bring in all the media that it needs. You can see it brought in all 6 cameras there, organized nice for you, and it made this little synced sequence. And you can see this looks similar to what we saw in Pluralize. So the next thing we need to do is take all of this sync information and manually figure out exactly what it is and also enter it manually into AVP. And then we'll achieve a perfect sync thanks to Pluralize. So the best way to do that is to zoom in a little bit so we can see a little bit easier what's going on. First thing, we just need to see which camera is the farthest down on the timeline here, farthest along, and for us it's camera 5, this video here, this video track. So the next thing we need to do is just drag all of these other video tracks down to line up with camera 5. So it's pretty simple. You can of course just hold down the Alt or Option key and click on a video track in order to select just the video and not its accompanying audio. And then you can of course drag it like that. And then that red number is kind of the information you're wanting, but I'll go into more detail later on that. So I've actually found it's a little bit easier just to come down here and lock all of your audio tracks by holding down Shift and then clicking on the little lock, or any one of the locks actually, on the audio, and it will lock all of them. And then all you gotta do is click and drag and move all your audio or your video tracks down to sync up with camera 5. So it's really easy. Do that really quick. And then all these red numbers here, if you're familiar with Premiere, are basically just saying that you're off sync or you're out of sync with the original video. So this is there to help you if you accidentally bump this, video, say you move it like 1 frame forward or something, it will kind of alarm you and tell you, hey, this is out of sync. And this is a pretty common error that a lot of editors run into with normal video. So it's a good safety feature for Premiere, but we're actually using it in a completely different way for this because we want to get that frame information and then manually input these numbers into AVP so that we can get a good sync. So the next thing we do is I like to just grab a quick screenshot, and then we can hide Premiere here And I like to have this just for reference, and then I'll also drag this into here for safekeeping. You can of course name this whatever you feel like would be appropriate. And now we're good to go. Now we have our frame offset. We can use this information to achieve perfect sync later in AutoPano Video Pro. So let's go ahead and open up AutoPano Video Pro. Then also just as simply, so go ahead and drag in all of our clips that we want to sync, and it will be presented with this window. So it shows all of our source clips up here and our timeline. So we have about 1 minute and 45 seconds worth of footage here. So the way we actually apply all this data, so usually I open it up and I'll have it in like a preview window or something. You can even zoom in a bit if you want for easier referencing. Then you can drag this over just so you can see it easier. Then all you gotta do is click the Synchro tab here, and all you have to do now is input all your information that you've gathered. Again, you'll remember that camera 5 is our 0. So this stays at 0 frames. If we had millisecond data, we could use that, but right now we're dealing with 1/80th of a second, or 80 frames per second. So we're gonna just put in the frame information. So all you have to do here is when you say camera 6, make sure you're up at camera 6, so it's kind of inverted here, but just type in 306. Camera 5 is at 0. Camera 4 is at 150. Camera 3 is at 459. Camera 2 is at 393. And camera 1 is at 104. Then once you've added all your numbers, double check them, make sure they're accurate, and just go ahead and click apply. So once you have your stuff all synced and applied, you can come over to stitch however you'd like. And then you have a pretty shot that you can use that is perfectly synced. So you notice there are no areas that are delayed or lagging or anything. Looks awesome. Okay, so that is the first way to do it. So it's a little bit more of a lengthy process, but if you batch all of your stuff in Pluralize, everything, it actually can go by pretty quick. And I would highly recommend using this at first because your quality is going to be just that much better. The second and third ways of syncing your clips are tools inside of AutoPano Video Pro. So I'll show you how to do that right now. As usual, drag your clips in. AutoPano Video will give you this screen, like you're familiar with, your source clips up here, not synced or anything yet. All we have to do is click on the synchronization tab here. With syncing in AutoPano Video Pro, you can either use audio or motion to synchronize. But the key thing is you're telling it to search within a certain range of this timeline marker, of this scrubber here. So you're saying, from this point, search 30 seconds ahead and 30 seconds behind. Obviously, it's not going to go the full 30, but you get the idea. So it's good to kind of go through. You can play on one clip if you'd like and see where I did the rapid spinning. Oh, there it is. So I'm about 9 seconds or so in. It does not need to be super crazy accurate, but I'm going to go to like around 9 seconds by dragging this. That'll move all of them over there. And we probably don't need to have it be at 30 seconds, so I'm just going to choose something like 12 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. It will go ahead and search around this timeline marker here, 12 seconds on each side. A good sign is it will say accurate synchronization found. That means that the program is very confident in the sync that it found. So you don't need to worry about it not being accurate. So go ahead and hit apply, and you're ready to go. And now we're synced. Now, a fun thing to do is you can actually go in and compare these sync numbers from the motion analysis in AutoPano Video Pro with the numbers you got from Pluralize and Premiere Pro. So let's go back in here just for kicks and giggles and compare our data. So you can see on camera 1, AutoPano Video thinks frame 103 is the closest. Pluralize says 104. Next one, 393, that's good. 459, good. 150, good. Camera 5 is 0, yep. And 305, 306. So it's pretty close. Not identical to Pluralize, but very, very close. You're pretty much going to get similar results either way. However, I still go with Pluralize because sometimes that one frame difference can help quite a bit and make your video look that much more solid. So let's actually, just for fun, go in here. We'll go ahead and do a really quick stitch on the current position just to see what it looks like and see if we can notice any differences in this sync versus the Pluralize sync. Do a quick horizon adjustment. Something like that. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and hit play and look through here. You'll notice that everything looks pretty good still. I'm not seeing any major differences in delay or anything. This is a pretty easy shot to stitch. Not a lot of movement, it's nice and smooth. You can see there though, not really noticeable, but there's that kind of delayed jiggle here on the top of the temple. You can kind of see these steeples up here are moving a little bit off of from what there is. So I'm actually going to go back in now, and the cool thing is you can actually adjust your synchro, your sync later, even after you've stitched. So I'm going to bring back the synchronization thing here, and I'm going to adjust these to make them align more with what Pluralize had. So I was at 306 and 104. So I'm going to up that by 1 and 1, and then I'm going to click apply. And you'll notice a very subtle difference here when it's done. So let's go back and play through that kind of same little segment again, and we'll see how it looks. So now you notice it's pretty solid. It's like locked on. I'm not noticing any delay in the sync. The temple's all moving perfectly. Even though there's a seam there, you can't see it. Whereas before, you could. There was that 1/80th of a second delay that kind of gave it this jello-y look. Proof is in the pudding. Pluralize is by far the most accurate way of syncing your clips. So let's show you the third way, just for fun as well. Now, I honestly have never used this because if I'm going to sync with audio, I'm going to be using Pluralize anyway. But if for some reason you end up needing to use AutoPano Video Pro's audio synchronization feature, this is how you do it. And it's very, in fact, it's identical to how you do motion synchronization. You find a place in your timeline where you know there's some identifiable sound. You can either play it in here and kind of know where you can look visually, like did I clap at this point? Can watch here and see. And usually with those little moments when I'm like fiddling with the rig and stuff, those are pretty good places actually to sync on audio because there's kind of those cracks and clicks and stuff as you're tightening things or moving things around. And even though they're not actual claps, you know, with your hands, they serve very much the same purpose. So again, find a good spot, click synchronization or synchro up here, and choose how long you want to search for. If you're not sure, do a longer or a larger number there. But if you're pretty positive that it's within 12 seconds or so of this point in time, then you're probably good. So I'm going to go ahead and click use audio to synchronize, and it will go ahead and do its magic. And here is something important. Sometimes you'll see this. It says synchronization does not seem reliable. You can select another point in the timeline and recompute. So what it's saying is you can choose another place on the timeline and try it again. So you can see it actually got even closer than the motion analysis did, but for some strange reason it doesn't believe in itself. You know, it just doesn't have the self-confidence that it should have because it did a great job. Anyway, so that's the other way to do it. You can apply, even if it says it's bad or whatever, you can see how it looks, and if you're happy with the result after you've done your stitch, then by all means go ahead and use it. That's just another way to get to that sync. As small as it might sound, sync is king. A lot of people think the stitch is the most important, and it is. It's very important. But if you don't have a good sync, it doesn't really matter how good your stitch is because you're gonna have weird jello effect kind of going on. You're just gonna have these weird spots that just don't look quite right. And to a trained eye, you know exactly what it is. It's a bad sync. But to people who might not be able to catch that, they're going to look at it and just see something that looks weird and doesn't look right. And like we noticed before, even if it's 1/80th of a second off, is going to make a difference. It's subtle, but it'll make a difference. And it'll be even more of a difference if it's more than just a few frames off. So I like to do a verbal slate before every take. I clap, I talk loudly right next to the cameras just to make sure I have a nice variety of sounds and acoustics that Pluralize can latch onto and synchronize to. And then I also do the rapid spinning like you're seeing here as a backup, because it usually gets very close as well. And in a pinch, you can always go in and actually manually adjust this by eye. So if you notice that you're seeing that weird jello effect that we noticed on that one seam on the steeple, for instance, you can identify which camera is the one that looks like it's delayed, and you can kind of come and tinker with the nearest frame value here and adjust it until it looks right or it looks better. Sometimes it won't be perfect, especially if there was some reason the video or the clip didn't get shot super well or smartly when you were on location. But there's always ways to improve it and polish it as best you can. Take your time while you're shooting, make sure everything is set up properly so that you don't have to worry about it in post. All right, and that's how you synchronize your clips and get them ready for stitching.